Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. It's time for Comics Revisited. Today, Planetary. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is
Jelani, Bullard.
And today on Comics Revisited, we're revisiting Planetary. Finally, this is something me and Jelani have really been looking forward to. But we first decided we'd do Stormwatch. We would do Authority. We would go across the Wildstorm ideas of Warren Ellis in order, right? And so we're finally actually at where we wanted to be, and that's doing the Planetary video. Planetary, of course, is a series written by Warren Ellis, artwork by John Cassaday, and colors by Laura Martin. A fantastic book. It was published by Wildstorm at the end of the 20th century, 1999 through 2009 to be exact. 10 years to do 27 issues and 3 crossover one-shot specials. It did have a lot of delays towards the second half of the book for sure. In fact, the delay between the penultimate issue and the final issue, or the ultimate issue, was a year. Yep. Like a 1 year wait. So, whoa, 1 year wait for a resolution. That felt really weird when you first read it, but then when you read it all together as a whole,
satisfying.
So satisfying. It's available in a whole bunch of different ways. Most notably right now, these 2 trade paperbacks that collect the entire saga, including the Planetary Batman, Planetary Justice League, and the Planetary Authority crossovers that had artwork by Phil Jimenez, Jerry Ordway, and then Cassidy did the Batman one. So overall, real quick, Planetary is about the mystery archaeologists of the fiction of the 20th century. Yeah. So it's about this team of heroes. You could call them a team of heroes, whatever, right? There's Elijah Snow. There's Jaquita Wagner. She's got superpowers. Elijah Snow's got freeze powers. And then there's the drummer, and he can, like, pick up on electronic communications or any kind of form of communication and even manipulate it, right? And he can do amazing things with technology and electronics, right? So basically they're going around trying to uncover the secret history of the Wildstorm universe, right? So all this stuff, like basically every story you read is true. It happened. It happened in a very realistic fashion, and that's what it does. So Ellis and company are able to then tackle Planetary, each issue focusing in on a different genre, and they changed the style to fit the genre that they're telling the story in for that issue. And it has an overarching story. We're going to get all into this. Have patience with us because we love Planetary so much. So, Jelani, first thing I'm going to ask you is, what do you think about Planetary? Why do you love it so much?
It is a fantastic book. Something about Warren Ellis, like, he knew how to make, like, a gritty story. Yeah. And tell it over a period of time to where it shows the secret history of that century. Yeah. And he points it out. Elijah Snow is over 100 years old. Yeah. And he's a century baby. Jenny Sparks was a century baby. Doc Brass is a century baby. What's his name? Blackmore? Jaquita's... You mean Tarzan? Tarzan, basically. Yeah. Tarzan is Jaquita's father, spoiler alert.
Oh, by the way, we will be spoiling Planetary, by the way, so yeah, I hope you've read it. We're going to get into it.
It's good. It's pulp, it's gritty, it's real at points. Yeah. Like, it makes my heart sing that Warren Ellis writes so well, and he did take all that time to build up to Planetary. Yeah. To where in this Wildstorm universe, we needed Planetary.
To me, it's still one of my favorite Warren Ellis works. You know, people all the time will be like, well, Warren Ellis is one of your favorite writers. What's your favorite Warren Ellis comic? And my easy answer is Planetary. Planetary is such an amazing comic. It is literally one of the best comic books ever done. So it's basically about Planetary. There's this organization. They have a field team of 3 people. The first issue starts with Jaquita Wagner and the drummer. They take they go and contact Elijah Snow. So Elijah Snow was born on January 1st, 1900. He's got these freeze powers. He's been involved in all this stuff, but his memory's a little hazy, a little shady. He's got lapses here and there. And he joins this Planetary organization in 1999 where they uncover the secret history. So, for instance, the first issue, they find a Doc Savage. Basically, it's Doc Brass, and him, and they represent the Golden Age. Right, so
the golden age of like superheroes, comics.
There's an analog. There's analogs in there for the Spirit. There's analogs for Tarzan. There's analog for the Shadow. That's all in there, right? Yeah. And they very early on introduced this idea of the snowflake shape and structure of the multiverse. That they live in a multiverse. What connects the universes together is the bleed, which is obviously something that was
tears in between.
Yeah, something that's explored in the Authority, and that the actual shape of the universe is like a multi-dimensional snowflake. We'll get to more on that in a minute because I spent a lot of time today looking up the monster group and group theory and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, and it's like leaking out of my brain as we speak. So it also has analogs for they go and cover mysteries like kaiju. There's this whole island it was Monster Island, but all the kaiju are dead. It's something that happened. There's Mothra, there's Godzilla.
It's always past fact.
Yeah.
When they find Doc Brass, his legs are like withered away because he sat and didn't eat for like 58 years.
Yeah.
The story about it is so enriching because you get these snippets of these things together.
They are archaeologists. They are literally uncovering the pieces.
Yeah. It's not the active works. Yeah. And it shows the JLA in a weird way. It makes it a sad way.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't make it a fun, sad way, though. They get a John Woo action movie. They got a Captain Marvel story. They got all this kind of stuff, right? And then the whole mystery is, how does Planetary have these resources? And it's the fourth man. So there's a mystery of there's the fourth man. That's the person who is financially responsible for everything, that's in charge of everything, basically.
They don't know who he is.
And Elijah doesn't know who he is.
All right.
Yeah, right?
Right.
So then they'll get to that, but they let's talk about some of these issues because they reinterpret the Fantastic Four as what if the Fantastic Four were doing exactly what they do in the comic books, but for their own good, for greed, for power, for financial gain, for political gain, stuff like that, right? So what would happen to an inverted version of the Fantastic Four? What would happen what would happen if an island of kaiju monsters really existed?
Right. And
the realism that gets approached in some of these is great. One of my favorite single issues that deals on the topic of picking apart, because as Planetary are uncovering the secret history of their universe. It's Warren Ellis and Cassidy and Martin uncovering and exploring the history of pop culture, the history of pop fiction in the 20th century.
Wow, and it's so vivid on what they want to, or what Ellis is trying to convey. Yes. I don't know how to explain it properly because he tells it in such a way, and you obviously know what that character is. You can't use it for licensing, but the fact that it was real, all of it was real for their world, and the way they tell it is just, he blows my mind for it.
I've heard it described as him taking the actual core concept of Lone Ranger, of Doc Savage, of the Shadow, of the Fantastic Four, taking those core concepts, and even though it doesn't seem, and making it so real, but getting that the fact that for instance the Fantastic Four are in a way, and I love the Fantastic Four, everybody knows that. They've become just like Superman and Batman. Batman has become kind of like a parody of himself. Right. Over so many years, it somehow just becomes this plastic version. Right. That's very just, it's always going to be the same and blah 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 blah. This gets back to the true root of the things, and there is a possibility of change and stuff like that. And it really takes these concepts, it doesn't poke fun at them. Right. It's incredibly reverent when it comes to this. He's not some this kind of stuff has been done before.
It has.
Poking
tons of times.
Doing a realistic version of what would happen if Superman really landed here. Right. Or what would really happen to here and this and that, right? But he has such a reverence to it. And the way they approach it is absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite issues, before we move on real quick with the just overall gist of the story, because the first half of this book is basically them exploring stuff. I love the Vertigo book. The one about Constantine becoming Spider Jerusalem. Yes. Going from the 80s British writers to the 90s.
To the 90s.
Yeah,
and he goes in one sitting. And actually, I was going to choose that.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
Are we best friends again? Yeah. Anyway, I love that issue so much.
It's so clean. You have, he made sure that a funeral for Constantine would turn into...
Was it Jack Carter?
Jack Carter.
I think, Jack something Carter,
like that. Yeah. And Jaquita was in love with him.
Yeah.
And how he was, and I was like, yeah,
he's kind of a bastard, and he shaves his head, and he becomes like Spider Jerusalem, basically.
And he has the tattoos and everything.
Yeah, it's really cool. And at his funeral, all the other Vertigo characters show up: Swamp Thing, the Doom Patrol, Animal Man, Black Orchid. It's all there.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it's real fun stuff, man. I love it. So then they reveal who the fourth man is.
Right.
And once again, spoilers. The fourth man is Elijah Snow. It was him all the time. The big villains are the four. The four have been the ones covering up this history. The reason why Planetary has to uncover all this lost knowledge and lost science and all this fascinating stuff that could have literally changed the world. Because here's an interesting idea. And I don't remember where I first heard this idea. I don't even know if it was from Ellis or from someone else. But they were like, in the world of the Marvel Universe, why is there like terrible things like climate change or hunger, poverty, like with Reed Richards' inventions and Tony Stark, like why are they bastards and not sharing this technology, right? Taking that idea, that's what the four does.
The core. That is the core of what they are. So they're like, yep, no one can have this with me. I will do this, but they do it to sell out.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's a stab because I love these characters.
Yeah.
I love how they're portrayed. I like William Leather is my favorite character.
That's the Human Torch.
The Human Torch.
Dowling is the Mr. Fantastic. I love him.
Richards, yeah.
Jacob Green,
who
is the thing, is like so twisted, and even when you finally see him, like the way they build up to it, and they only show you him
little pieces,
and then when they do, and then it's just so, oh my goodness. And then there's Sue. Is it Sue? Like
Sue is.
It's like
Kurtzman, and she's like she's the Invisible Woman, and I mean she's I can't remember Krieg. Gosh dang it! Now I forgot her name.
Yeah, but she's like former Nazi.
She's a former Nazi.
So's Dowling.
Yeah,
It's just
and they want to sell us out.
Yeah,
what punks, man! And they hold all of this technology. Spoiler for this too. They have an entire planet that just stores their weapons.
Yeah, that's where they get into the Thor hammer.
They get the Thor hammer. Yeah, it's so. Like, it's amazing.
Real great stuff. So the first half of the book is really them going through and Ellis and Cassidy kind of picking apart these genres and these stories, deconstructing it with reverence and making it work and shine just as it did when it first happened, and make it hit. Take these concepts, polish them up, get to what actually made Captain Marvel work.
Right.
So Captain Marvel, silly, right? You get to the Captain Marvel issue there, and it's like filled with power and awe.
Yeah.
And that was the true root of the character, right? And so that's what's so amazing. The second half of the book is about Elijah Snow now realizes he's the fourth man. He underwent voluntary memory implants, right? They took away memories voluntarily so that he could save Planetary, right? And man, then they start. So now the whole shift is on Elijah and his war against the four. And then you explain the origin of Chiquita, that she is the Tarzan character, like the daughter of,
like she's unstoppable.
Another Century baby, part of Doc Brass's, so in the first issue, she's at the grave of her father. Basically, right? You find out about the drummer, the very tragic story about him.
Yep.
Everybody else died except for him. It's some special. It's great stuff. You realize that Elijah's this the book starts off very cynical. And Elijah himself is like that, He's very much that typical bastard protagonist in white that Warren Ellis does.
Basically, Jenny Sparks.
Yeah, basically. But the whole gear shift, they start taking out the four one by one. They explain the origins of these characters. They find out that the James Bond character is Jack Stone. He's working with it. The Hart Foundation gets involved. That's basically Fu Manchu. He was part of the Golden Age. So you think about that. Doc Brass and them represent the Golden Age. The four represent the Silver Age. Planetary represents the current modern age of the time, right? Then it ends up, and of course, Planetary wins. But what I love about this is that Elijah then, because it starts off cynical, but then it ends so hopeful. They're so resilient. They want to take this technology and these wonders back from the four and give it back to the world. I love it.
It is, and that's all they wanted to do to begin with. And the fact the four are just hoarders, just nonsense to sell us out, and it feels like Planetary is a really underground hero. Yeah, that's just baseline what they could be, and I like each character the way they are introduced throughout the story. You get these pieces of how they grow as people, and it feels great because you want a fleshed out story with characters you like and enjoy. And I love Elijah Snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's my favorite character because he's so stoic. But he wants to save the world.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
Now, the third member of Planetary, before Elijah came on after he had lost his memory, was Ambrose Chase. And they lost Ambrose Chase during a mission, but he had these abilities to, like, have these time. Yeah, he could, like, stop
warp
time. Like, he could have a warp anomaly around him or whatever. So he basically stopped and froze time. So you also tie in the defeat of the Four, and they need to defeat the Four to get the technology to create the field and the time machine and slow time down or do this or whatever to pull him out based on a suspicion that Elijah Snow has. So it starts off, this character's in the dark, he's cynical, he comes across as just a typical Ellisian bastard.
He is,
and then he winds up being this almost
optimist,
messianic type figure. He's a very much positive-minded. He goes through his dark phase. He does that issue where he got the Doctor Strange issue, where he like understands the connectedness of everything.
Yep.
How everything works information
together.
And it's all working together. This ties into the snowflake idea, and it ties into actual real theories and mathematics and the connectedness of things. So it gets metaphysical all at the same time. And it also deals with mythology, like that creation myths. Issue was so fantastic. So the second half is really just them after the Four. They beat the Four, and then they use that to change the world through reason, through technology, and it really just gives you a sense of we could do this.
It could be done,
and we can have a utopia. We can be inspired by even our fiction to do this. You know, overall,
a little positive.
I love this book so damn much. What's some of your favorite moments? Another one of my favorite issues, because I know I just asked you a question, but. The one where it's like the 19th century space launch, where they're like something's coming back,
and they shoot the ball out in the gun club.
Yeah,
it's called They shoot. They just we're just gonna shoot these guys in space.
I love that. We're gonna try to get these, like, what are some of your other favorite moments?
I love the saddest one for me is the Superman one, because I read that all the time, and I'm like. Oh man, and they're so hopeful. Like the parents are so hopeful. Their world's dying. You know, they're like, we're gonna send our kid off into space with all of our knowledge, and hopefully they'll be able to save their world with this knowledge.
Yeah.
And the baby shoots down, and it's like a little misshapen alien child.
Yeah.
And it lands on Earth. And William Leather finds it and turns around and kills it.
Yep, just immediately kills it.
Just immediately kills it.
And that issue that
shows... it's the cutest baby.
It shows Dowling
and he's
dissecting the Green Lantern.
Yeah.
You know, they got rid of Wonder Woman. Like, and that's the issue where they really kind of cement the idea that the Four are not just evil and greedy. They're like holding back all this technology from people. They can make the world a better place, but they refuse to do so because, as you said, they have literally sold out the human race to these dark elder god things or something like that, right?
That live on an alternate Earth. That's how they did their astronaut launch.
Yeah,
they launched into another dimension.
Yeah, they go through the bleed, and
then it turns into an alternate Earth that's just evil. It's just horrible.
Yeah,
and they want to sell them out. And they're like, well, yeah, we'll give you, we want these fantastic powers. Yes, we want powers unimaginable to do this. And they come at random from what he said, just like they did in Fantastic Four. But the fact that it's like, yeah, we're not going to be the Fantastic Four and be optimistic about this. Yeah, let's go ahead and, take all this stuff, keep it, give it to these people so they can take it over so we can take over any Earth we want. It was basically... universal domination. Yeah, that's what they were looking for, and it was so brilliant. This story is so awesome.
So they defeat Jacob Green, the Thing, by sending him off in the Galactus ship. Yep. So they find Galactus' ship, and Galactus has been dead for who knows how long. Whole civilizations have spurned up around him and living off of his biomass and shit like that. It's really fun, wild stuff in every single issue of this. Lots of really fun, cool stuff. Yeah. And so in the midst of all this, you get all this cool idea about the connection of everything and how important everything is and how evil and bastardized some people are and all this kind of stuff. We've been talking a lot about Warren Ellis and these stories and these characters, and it's really fun stuff. But let's talk about John Cassaday. John Cassaday's artwork is so good, and he literally does change his style issue to issue, everything. Look how meticulous it is, down to the gutters, down to the colors, like the color palettes by Laura Martin. They shift, they change. Depending on how it's supposed to be. The John Woo movie one looks like it's cinematic. You know, the James Bond one looks like a S.H.I.E.L.D. Jim Steranko book. Real fun stuff. I love the artwork. I know Cassidy's one of your favorites.
He is absolutely, like, it took me forever to try to see if I could get a sketch from him. Because he's one of my favorite artists, probably next to Jim Lee, as what you're getting right, what you can get right to make emotion happen or to make you feel something about it. Like I said, I love the issue with the Lone Ranger.
It looks beautiful.
It is by far one of my favorite drawn things by John Cassaday, with the eyes where he's putting the smoke on his eyes for the mask, and it's I cry a little bit because John Cassaday brings that emotion out of you. Brian Hitch does that as well with Authority, and you get these feelings. And I love Brian Hitch too, but they both know how to convey a story. So I'll take a little time. I'll wait a year or so for my endings.
Well, Ellis was like dealing with an illness or something for a while. Then Cassidy started getting popular, so he started doing things like Captain America. He did right after the 9/11 issue stuff. Then he did Astonishing X-Men and all that stuff. I love his artwork so much. It really shines through. Like you said, in that Lone Ranger one. Man. The issue where it explains, after you realize that the fourth man has been Elijah all along, they reveal that he was trained by Sherlock Holmes because he kills Dracula. And
he kills Dracula with ice.
Yeah, he does. And that's just he's like, I know he'll come back eventually, but he won't take a while for the balls to back, or something like that. But I love the way that issue, everything is done the way it's supposed to be for itself. The issue where it's like it's Hark. Like Hark's daughter, right?
It's Hark's daughter.
Yeah, like in that, like that whole issue is amazing, and it's all green and red, and it's just so striking. But even down, like I said, to the panel borders, the gutters, the colors,
everything is
everything
so
about
well detailed.
Sometimes it looks like typical comic art. Sometimes it's very textured and realistic, and it's just such an amazing,
it's gritty at times,
amazing artwork in this comic book. So let's talk about some of the themes. We've touched on a little bit of this stuff. What do you think this book is about? I think it definitely has a big humanist slant. Yeah. And I give mad props. I got to give mad props to Matt Draper's YouTube channel. He did a video about Planetary, kind of making this connection for me, and it really is there. Like the humanist idea, the thought that it's not, we need to not put our trust and faith into religion, superstition, things like that. Human intellect and reason
for ourselves
and compassion is enough. That's all we need, and we can excel and be great as a society, and humans should look out for humans, and we should strive to make society better using intellect
by
and
doing
reason.
ourselves.
By doing it ourselves. Not saying anything's wrong with religion, but that everything should be studied and criticized and
analyzed.
Yeah, right? This is totally in the authority. I mean, in Planetary.
All the way through Planetary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you get so many people that are learning and growing from this. And that's exactly what Elijah Snow was doing. He wants to grow as a person and to make himself better. Yeah. So that the world is better. And you do get that positive vibe at the end of it. It's supposed to be that hopeful. Yeah. You're supposed to have that feeling. So I get that from his character. I even get that from Dowling. Because Dowling is an awful person, but he wants control of it all.
Dowling's the inverse of the humanist idea, almost. Yeah. Like it's the same idea. It's just the inversion of it. It's the inversion of Elijah, basically. Right. And it's a fascinating story. And one of the best things about this and the way that this theme unfolds is it does unfold. Right. It doesn't come out straight out of the water.
You have to read it. You have to understand it.
Yeah, it doesn't come straight out and be like, this book is going to be about this, right? It lets you know another thing that we're about to get to, and that's the wonder of the strange, and that's something that's very, very important. But the idea that the book does start off in a typical Warren Ellis fashion, like it's cynical, it's gritty, it's grim. It doesn't seem like it's going to have a good ending. It doesn't seem like these are necessarily good people. Yeah. You're a little scared of Chiquita. Right. Drummer seems insane. Elijah is completely opaque. Like you have no idea, what's going on there. But as it unfolds, and even as they introduce these stories, you're like, these are dark takes on these characters of Doc Savage, and a dark take on the Fantastic Four. But then, and Bond and all this other stuff. But then those characters flourish and grow out and become more involved. And then you get this idea of the interconnectedness of everything, right? Warren Ellis postulates in this book that group theory, the idea that there's a multiverse, and that the multiverse has 196,833 dimensions.
Really?
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot of dimensions.
They came to this number. It's called the monster group. So part of group theory is basically groups of symmetry and geometric shapes or something like that. Like a triangle has a certain amount and numbers of symmetries that are repeating, and you can do whatever. It's crazy. Look it up. Seriously, look up monster group.
You're blowing my mind.
Yeah, okay. So they have some of these that they're on their own, right? They're not part of the big collectedness of it. Like they even have like their own periodic table of these groups or whatever. And the groups range in size, and then there's one that's like monster. It's like this huge number of like something, right? And the shape that this represents can only exist, right, in 196,833 dimensions. Damn. That's where this comes from.
Wow!
So
I had no idea of this.
Yes, it's not just a number that Warren Ellis pulled out of his ass or something like that. So it's really, check that out. And the idea of the snowflake, the fractal nature of it, that everything's connected. And they show this so much when he does his vision quest. Basically, the Doctor Strange issue, right? He starts seeing the flower petals. Then he sees the humans in it. Right. And how many times is that snowflake pattern, that spiral, repeated throughout that web fractaling, like, that snowflake pattern is repeated over and over again. And the idea of the snowflake is this: is how could you imagine something having more dimensions? Well, look, in one of the videos I watched today, they were like, look at a Christmas tree ornament, right? And I was thinking, ooh, look at one that's actually made to look like a snowflake. From certain angles, you're like, oh, it's three-dimensional. And other ones, you're like, no, I see 5 points. Right. Oh, no, actually, it's 6. Something like that. So it's hard to visualize, but that's what more, But the idea is that it's all connected. Everybody has a part to do. Everybody has something to do. Right. And all the mythology, whether it's from the heroes or literal mythology in the story, they realize that it's all part of something, and it's the idea that the information is the universe is actually information. We're just a three-dimensional projection of that information. So you can actually change the information, the code, if you will, to like cause crazy beings, and that's what Dowling that's what they're doing when they build the fictional city to go and like that's a crazy concept. They got Science City Zero. It's a big deal in it, and like all these experiments are done because they're able to. It's all involving that snowflake. It's a recurrent image and theme throughout the whole book, and it's because that's what they're doing to make these crazy changes. They're basically rewriting the code of the universe. It's like the Matrix, kind of in a way.
It just blows my mind, though, that you put it in those terms. This makes me love that book more.
Yeah, on. Yeah.
It really does. It shows that, everything does connect. And that you have to have this to work for them to sell it off. But it tells a great tale of that. Yeah. And I'm impressed. I'm sorry, you blew my mind away.
Well, that's fine. Like, for instance, someone like Grant Morrison, I love and respect his work because what he likes to do is he likes to say, like, for instance, Superman is a modern-day mythological character, right? So Grant Morrison approaches Superman, like a lot of other writers do, and probably should, as a character that is larger than us, outside of us, and something to inspire us. It's a mythological figure, right? Morrison, that's kind of Morrisonite. Ellis, for instance, with Planetary, deconstructs the idea of Superman, but he doesn't do it to be like, look, it's all lies. He doesn't go, no, look, it's all just because it's information. If I change this to this, and he freshens it up and sparks it out, and he reignites that passion in the same mythological nature in a different way through mystery archaeology. Right? I don't know. Other things, of course, Wonder of the Strange. It's a strange world. Let's keep it that way. Talk about that, like how important it is to... We talked about Ellis's sense of wonder in the Authority video. In this one, his sense of wonder about the strange.
It is the strange. He does embrace it. It makes more sense that you have to get these dark places. Mm-hmm. You have to go to these dark areas. It's not where a lot of public people, or where people would know this information. And I love how the world works that way right now.
Yeah.
So, you've got probably, well, not strange like what we experience here, but you get strange in the world at large.
Yeah.
And because everyone's different. But at the same time, I don't know how to explain it properly.
Everyone's different because they're all a piece of the same thing.
The same thing.
One could say. I really love it. He does have a sense of the strange, of the wonder. Like, let's go out there and let's see what's there. There's so much here that we haven't even uncovered that we need to look. Like, why does this happen? Why does this myth exist?
Yeah.
Why do these ideas exist? Like, let's get into it. Then let's go out there. Let's take it. Let's expand. Let's grow. Mm-hmm. And Ellis gets the reputation for being kind of a very nihilistic writer.
Yeah, he does.
And
he gets that rap.
But man, he is not that way. He is so about expansion and exploration. And
because every story he's had, even though they're bad things and tragic things that happen, it tells a hopeful tale at the end. He gives you an ending. That's why I love Ellis too. He knows how to tell a story. You get in the beginning, it's fleshed out who these people are. Then you get that middle where the character realizes a change has happened.
Yes.
And then there's the finale where he puts that plan into motion.
Yeah.
And he tells all of his stories that way. He has a beginning, middle, and end every time. I hate being strung along.
Yeah.
How could this do? How could this end? How would this be? I like cohesive stories. And I like how you get a character arc for and especially in this book, you get a character arc for pretty much almost everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone gets some kind of ending.
Yeah.
In this book. And
that ending is a new beginning.
It's a new beginning.
I would love to see what happens.
I wish you'd write more of these.
Yeah, right? Yeah, no kidding. Fat chance of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the book is amazing. And anybody else could have ended this book. It seemed like the natural progression of the narrative was going to end up with Elijah and Dallin killing each other.
Right.
And that was it. Like, killing the Four was the ultimate goal. No. It was getting this back from the Four.
Yep.
This wonder that was stolen from humanity.
Exactly.
And giving it back. And that's what the book is about. And it comes out of nowhere, but gradually so, organically so, and it reveals itself as one of the absolute most exhilarating, exuberant, and positive Warren Ellis reading experiences.
Read it. Ever. Please read it.
Well, I hope you've read it, because if not, we
just spoiled a lot of it.
Reread it. That's what we should say. Reread it. Well, the importance of this book is because it is one of the best comic books ever done. John Cassaday exploded on the scene because of this. This, along with books like Authority, like we were talking about, cemented Warren Ellis 100%. You got it now. It expressed the intense patience that some comic book fans will have for high quality work.
Don't wait.
What do you think? What's the importance of Planetary to you?
The importance of Planetary is, to me, it should be how we can survive as a people. Honestly, that it really tells that story. You want a character to get out there and actually thrive and do well, and it makes you want to do well, and that's what this book brings out of me. I like it for so many other reasons too. It's just Warren Ellis, like I said before, he does tell this story, but I want more from it going forward, like you said, and I can't say any more about it. Yeah,
it would be nice, to have some extra little one-shots or little things, little specials here and there.
And you got them. You got Terracotta.
And those are fun and neat. The best of which probably is the Batman one.
Yeah.
Like, that Batman one is, and that's probably it's probably not too much of a coincidence that one's actually drawn by John Cassaday.
Right.
No shade on Ordway
None.
or Jimenez, because both of those were great. I remember being slightly disappointed by the Authority one, because the Authority and Planetary never actually meet.
None. No. They should have.
But you do find out that Elijah and Jenny have a shared moment in their history
Yeah.
that they probably best left forgotten. Yep. This book was amazing. I love Planetary. I loved revisiting it. I thought, 27 issues or whatever, it's going to take a minute to get through it. Nah, it was really fast. It was really fun. It's fascinating, and when I put it down, I want to pick it back up again.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's mysterious.
I will read it again.
It's wondrous. It's inspiring. I absolutely love Planetary. What do you think about Planetary? Let us know in the comments down below, and we'll be back next week with yet another episode of Comics Revisited. So thank you so much for checking out the video. If you haven't gotten these awesome new editions or some of the others, we'll throw links down below. You can check that out and help support PCP there. Or you can support us over at patreon.com/PCP and unlock exclusive content and early access. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups.
This is Jelani Bullard.
We are Pop Culture Philosophers. Thanks for joining the Army. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Kramer. So, Morrison. Let's just say Superman.
All right.
To Morrison, Superman is a god.
He is a god.
And he writes and respects and nurtures that character as a mythological god, an entity. And he writes it as such.
Right.
And the DC universe is this other realm where these mythological creatures exist.
Yeah.
To Alan Moore, Superman is a man. He's a flawed individual. He wants to bring him out of that fictional mythological realm into our world, deconstruct it to show it in its absurdity and to show it for what it truly is, which is just fantasy.
That is Alan Moore.
Warren Ellis takes Superman and his world, dissects it, deconstructs it, finds out what made it work
to begin with,
reconnects it to today's zeitgeist, and through that expands it from the real world back into the mythological realm.
Wow.
Grant, Moore, Ellis.
He's
Gaiman's up here. Just going. And Milligan's down here.
Right.
That
makes sense.
I should make a chart.
That was awesome.
I don't know.
You just
the spirit moved me. Yeah, the spirit moved me.
That was awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done.